Hello, this is Anctil and welcome to Kaizen tip number 2. Today I'm going to dig a little bit deeper about the concept of Kaizen that I introduced to you at the first quick tip. We looked at different processes in practical problem solving, which is an important key feature of Kaizen, to analyze a problem. The word problem in Kaizen actually is not a bad term. It represents an opportunity for improvement. So when you look at the current state and the desired state, you will notice that there's a gap. Usually these problems can be identified based on measurable behaviors. So your current state could be based on a CSI index, customer satisfaction index, where you're currently at 90%, and in the past you have reached heights of 96 or 97%, or the average is around there. When you identify your current state and your desired state, you realize that the gap could be 5 or 6%. But in fact, if you want to do the proactive Kaizen, not just the reactive Kaizen, you're actually looking at a gap of 10%, bridging from 90 to 100%. The next step is to do what is known as Genchigenbutsu. Genchigenbutsu loosely means go look, go see. Go to the source. Don't assume. Go and look for yourself. A little bit like in the television show The Undercover Boss, where you see someone going to work for themselves and noticing things at the ground level, exactly what is going on. This way, they're not making assumptions or asking a manager to tell an employee to report back to the section manager, and by the time it gets back to the head of the operation, sometimes the message gets a little distorted or diluted. This way you can actually see it for yourself and know exactly what the problem and the cause was. Genchigenbutsu source can be a survey. It can be employee feedbacks. It could even be any kind of reports that you have that can help guide. You could do focus group with customers or with employees, or a combination of the two, or you can go see for yourself, as the Undercover Boss show suggests, which is a great practice, by the way. One example I'd like to discuss would be based on a customer satisfaction index. Assuming that you currently are at the 90% score and that your normal average is 96, you have a gap of 6%, but what you're aiming for really is to bridge the gap to go to 100%. So your gap is about 10%. When you go back and you consider all the possibilities through your problem analysis, you will have to look at who is involved in the process, who is affected before and after this step of the process, when is it occurring, and where, at what stage of the process, and how, what's going on exactly. It could be the result of a very simple behavior change that requires as a countermeasure to eliminate some of these problems. And the last thing you'll notice that we ask is why. In the Kaizen philosophy, after you've done an analysis and the Genchigenbutsu leading you to the different area and creating a better awareness of what's going on in your environment, then you can ask why. However, you should be asking why up to 5 times. Because as you drill down, sometimes you get the first level, which is not really the fundamental cause of the problem. For example, in a manufacturing process, you would have a metal stamping machine, and you notice that the blade is now worn out. You ask, why is it worn out? You realize that the suspension mechanism under the blade is broken. So you replace the suspension spring, and the blade wears out again, maybe a few weeks later. You ask yourself, why a second time? And then you find out that the table is not leveled. So now you level the table, replace the spring a second time, replace the blade again, and the problem reoccurs 6 months later, and wondering, why is this happening again? You go one step further to realize that there was an earthquake and the basement main suspension beam caved in a couple inches, which made the floor a little bit unleveled. So now you push back the beam, level the floor, level the table, replace the suspension mechanism in your blade, and replace the blade, and you found the problem. But if you ask why one more time, now you've gone too broad, because you're going to ask, why was there an earthquake? And as you can see now, it gets a little bit too vague. Take a step back and fix the problem at the source. Once you have identified the source through the 5 whys, you will propose countermeasures. The countermeasures should be multiple, not just one, and you should do brainstorming, decision by consensus, to find out different avenues of possibilities to resolve the situation. Some countermeasures may be short-term, some may be long-term, some may be costly, and some may have a better return on investment. And an analysis of these types of countermeasures will guide your next action plan. So until our next Kaizen tip, thank you, and we'll see you again.